All right. Thank you, Sir Jeff. Hi, my name is David Sadler. I'm the IT director for Caroline County and also the project manager for VADI 2023. Tonight's meeting is going to take a similar format to last month's meeting, even though it was only about 3 weeks prior to this meeting. What we'll do is kind of buzz through some of these updates. A lot of the information that we have has not changed because the state numbers haven't updated as of yet on the VADI dashboard and the VADI sites. So we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight we'll cover the updates, and instead of being the 18th, we're actually on the 9th. So we'll talk about the Caroline County West Verizon project first. This is the most up-to-date form that we had pulled down just a little while ago. The numbers are pretty much the same, with the exception of the only thing that's changing in this slide as opposed to last is the time frame. If you notice that 75% of the time frame has expired for this project on the Caroline County Verizon or Caroline County West project. Caroline County West project, the fiber in the area has 100% been installed. No changes since last month, with 418 of 858 addresses able to place an order. The Caroline West project, the remaining areas in the southern and northern parts of the project are now a priority for Verizon. The remote equipment's being configured, and that will open up these addresses very soon. This project remains on schedule and is likely to be completed by April 2025. Now we'll move on to the VADI 2023 project, the Caroline East project with Breeze Line. About the same here. What we have noticed is that there's been a little uptick in the number of fiber mileage installed. And also notice that the time frame on this project is 38% expired. So this project is a longer project that must be completed by October 23rd, 2026. If you go down to the phases, milestones, they're all similar. No changes since last meeting. In the Caroline East project, the design of the project, of course, is complete 100%. And according to Breeze Line, about 35% of this project has been completed. One area that we want to bring up is the area of pole permitting. Just to give everyone an idea, and this is new information that was just received this month, the pole permitting applications submitted to both Dominion and Rappahannock Electric total 5,754 pole permits have been applied for. So that's a lot of pole work that's going to be required in the project. 4.1% or 237 to Dominion, 95.9% or 5,517 with Rappahannock Electric. So this is going to be a big concern. We just have to continue to watch this to make sure that the pole permits are being processed by Rappahannock Electric in a timely manner. And once the pole permits have been processed, the actual completion of the work is also done. Otherwise, this could be a holdup of the project, but right now is not indicated as a possible problem. So we'll just continue to monitor this. Of course, the design of the project is complete, and as of the last report, we now have 56 miles, so that's up 17 as compared to the last report. 56 of 439 miles. And this work has been going on since January 2024. 93 of the 3,910 applications now have service. If we look at this project area, the project map is the exact same colored map, and no real changes to this map since the last meeting. Just note that areas down in this area, the GCV 16, 14, there's a lot of actual underground off of the main line that will run from Bowling Green down to Dawn. A lot of the side work on those side roads now is being completed. So we're receiving calls that underground is going in areas a right good distance off of Route 301. So there's a lot of construction going on in this area now. One of the 4 railroad crossings is complete, going under CSX. So this process has been going on for over 2 years now, with delays primarily caused by CSX Railroad. The remaining 3 should be completed in time to avoid an overall project delay. One of the challenges that the contractors that are performing this work is seeing is they'll get a call from CSX saying, or from the CSX contractor that oversees safety, to notify them that CSX can have people on site the very next day. So then the contractor actually has to work with his subcontractors to try to get those crews. And so they missed one deadline. They were unable to get crews in place in less than 24 hours. But they are aware of that requirement and will be working with CSX safety crews to be able to move that equipment quickly when they get that very short notice. So CSX is not real easy to work with, and making it actually difficult to get this project completed. We're hoping that the next 3 crossings should go in fairly close in time frame, and once that's done, the railroad crossings will be complete. In speaking with the contractor and the subcontractor, they're hoping that can be completed within the next month. This project remains on schedule and is likely to be completed by October 2026. Are there any questions from anyone before we move on to the next bit of information that we need to pass on? All right, we'll move on. We'll spend just a couple of minutes talking about BEAD. BEAD is funding from the federal government that is passing down through the states, and it refers to the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. It's part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of the United States, and this program aims to expand broadband access to underserved and unserved areas, particularly in rural and low-income communities. That's been updated in the state of Virginia. There's not really a focus on the low-income communities or rural areas. There will be BEAD money that will be used in suburban areas and urban areas as well. So, but that's the definition from the federal government. So, BEAD funding will be used. So, as these projects are awarded in VADI and counties obtain universal coverage. Now, note that universal coverage is only, I think there's a requirement of about 98% coverage in your county to be considered universal coverage. So that in itself recognizes the fact that there'll be some small, tiny pockets of, 2 or 3 houses here, a house there that may not be covered. This is what BEAD will cover. And this will be a program that comes in after VADI. So the addresses that we're serving in VADI comes out of BEAD eligible addresses. So if it's covered in VADI, it's not going to be eligible for BEAD. BEAD is a completely separate program. It is being funded through the Department of Housing and Community Development, the same department that funds VADI. However, the BEAD program is totally between a provider and DHCD. Localities are not involved. So there's no requirements of the locality to do an application, to even participate in an application. So one area that we do have participation in is that the applications are scored, and if they receive a recommendation from the County Board of Supervisors, then they receive 10 points on that application. So while we don't have control over who would get the job, if the county, for example, was not to recommend a provider, then that application will be at a disadvantage against other applications. Now, these addresses are awarded in zip codes. So a provider that's interested in serving, for example, 22546 would fill out an application, figure a price, and submit that along with the application, and it would be considered against other providers that may want to cover that same zip. The Department of Housing and Community Development would then score the application, giving 10 points to the companies that have a recommendation from the locality, and the winner would then be required to service all unserved addresses in that zip code. Now, the unserved addresses in that zip code is determined by the list of BEAD eligible addresses that are approved and sent out. Now, they're still working on coming up with a list of addresses. So the application process has been open now for several weeks, so that the companies can begin to work on the dialogue of the application. However, at this point, they do not know what addresses will be BEAD eligible. As of this date, 4 companies have requested recommendations from the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to participate in this program. Again, localities will not have input into the awards given under this program beyond their recommendation. 16 companies have submitted letters to DHCD to participate in BEAD in Caroline County. So we have received requests from 4 companies, but there are actually 16 companies. So that would lead us to believe that more than likely we're going to be getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 more letters of request for a recommendation, unless those companies plan to submit their application without that recommendation. So there's a lot of companies that are interested in, again, serving the addresses that aren't covered under VATI 21 and 23. As well as RDOF. So if we've done and we have done as thorough job as trying to get those addresses as possible, so there hopefully won't be a tremendous amount of addresses that are available. Now, we do have some addresses primarily on the west side of Caroline County in areas that were surrounded by or closely approached by Comcast. Comcast previously may have identified those addresses as being served by them. However, in 22, they were required to submit a list of addresses that they actually serve. So then addresses that they may have said they served, but they actually didn't, came out, making those addresses eligible for BEAD. But because they were showing as being served by Comcast in 22, they were not eligible for DHCD. So we had addresses that we had to remove in 22 and 23 because they were listed as being served by, say, a Comcast. But then when Comcast removed the addresses that they actually did not serve, they left those addresses unserved. The 4 companies that have requested BEAD recommendations from Caroline County. So Verizon, Caroline County Board of Supervisors recommended at its last meeting that Verizon be able to participate in BEAD. Breezeline, the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, also recommended that they be able to participate in BEAD. Now, if you remember, we considered those 2 companies earlier on at this committee, because recommendations for BEAD are run through this committee, and then based on our request to the board would then consider a recommendation. So those 2 we sent to the board with the request that they be recommended, and both of those were taken care of at the last meeting. A third company that had previously been talking to us and requested a letter of recommendation, River Street Networks. they had originally requested a recommendation, but then I received notification from them that after further review, their company decided not to participate in BEAD in Caroline County. We have just recently received a request from Comcast. So Comcast has requested a recommendation from the Board of Supervisors to participate in BEAD. Comcast has requested the recommendation, and if it's successful to participate in BEAD, it would benefit the citizens in Caroline County in the Comcast service area that remain unserved. Earlier today, I emailed a poll out to the members of this committee, since this is kind of a combination of just a informational meeting as well as a regular meeting, to make sure that we had enough responses to be able to forward a request to the Board of Supervisors. Since their next meeting is tomorrow evening, this request would not go to the board until January. And the 4 responses that I received today were all for yes. So while we're not holding a formal meeting, we can't really take a vote. There's no motion, but if Jonathan, do you have what we're going to do is compile the responses, and then based on that, we would forward it to the board. So Jonathan, if you have a response, would you be in favor of forwarding this to Comcast?
Yeah, I'd be in favor of forwarding this to the board to vote.
All right. And Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
All right. So then what we have is a total of 6 votes received, which is more than half of this committee. So we're good to submit that based on the votes that we've received. Again, if you have any, as citizens, if you have questions or you want to find out more about broadband, there's the broadband page in Caroline County right on the Caroline County website. And if you have any questions, the big orange button is your friend. Just click that, enter your name, your street address, which is very important so that we can locate you within the projects and be able to answer your question, and then hit submit, and that comes to us. We are receiving a very high number of requests now as construction's going on in areas that had not previously seen construction. So we're getting a lot of interest here. So be patient. If you submit that question, we'll get back to them and get back to you with a response as quickly as we possibly can. Our next broadband update is scheduled for Monday, January the 20th at 7 p.m. Please feel free to join us as these updates are streamed via YouTube. Jonathan, if you have anything that you would like to add or any questions about the presentation that we had tonight?
No, not particularly. You covered everything, David. I'm good.
And Mr. Thomas?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
All right. So in an effort to keep this meeting brief, especially because a lot of it was just a recap from last month with just a few minor changes, at this point, we'll conclude this meeting and see you all January the 20th at 7 p.m. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Next time. Thank you, David.